You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Lee, Jacob Valk, except no imitation. It's kind of interesting when you stop and think about it. The wild card round featured some of the worst playoff games you could possibly have. Remember Patriots, Bills? Remember Eagles, Buccaneers? Remember Steelers, Chiefs? Remember Cardinals, Rams? Those games were blowouts. Those games were over in the first half. The last 6 playoff games that the NFL has had have been some of the greatest playoff games you'll ever see. Like going into the divisional round, if you're impartial, all you wanted was good football, entertaining football. You've gotten it. You've gotten it and then some. 5 of the last 6 playoff games have been decided by 3 points. All 6 of them have been one-score games. It's been nothing short of incredible. These playoffs have been insane. Maybe the best playoffs ever. We'll have to see how the Super Bowl goes before we can say that, but given what we've seen recently, I think we're going to get a fantastic Super Bowl. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I've got to start with Bengals Chiefs and the epic choke job by Patrick Mahomes. And that's what this was. All due respect to the Bengals. But this was more of a Chiefs choke than it was a Bengals comeback. Whenever something happens, like you blowing an 18-point lead, the question that you need to ask is this a choke or a great comeback? This is more of a choke. From the end of the second quarter on, the Chiefs only scored 3 points. The Bengals gave the Chiefs plenty of opportunities to win this game. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but think about the last drive in regulation. 1st and goal at the 5. If the Chiefs score a touchdown there, I don't want to say that they win definitively, but that would have been a tough comeback for Burrow. Instead, Patrick Mahomes just melts down. I have never seen Mahomes play as bad as he played in that game. It's kind of funny because he threw 3 touchdowns and he threw for 275 yards, completed 26 of his 39 passes, but he just made stupid decision after stupid decision after stupid decision. Is this the same quarterback that tied an NFL game with 13 seconds left on the clock? The Chiefs are a great team when they're playing from behind. We know this. Think back to their Super Bowl run. They were down 24-0 to the Texans at one point. They were down 17-7 to the Titans at one point. They were down 20-10 to the Niners in the Super Bowl, then outscored them 21-0 in the fourth quarter. I mean, you saw the Chiefs go up 21-3 in the second quarter. 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. You're thinking at that moment, this game is over. The Chiefs are winning. They're going to the Super Bowl. Congratulations to them. The drive afterwards by the Bengals, it was almost irrelevant in a sense. Yes, they got a touchdown, but did anyone think that was a big moment in the game? Did anyone think that Samaje Perine burning the Chiefs on that screen was a huge moment? No. But that was the start of the choke. Like, this is a moment that no one is talking about, but it's one of the biggest moments in the game. 9 seconds left on the clock, 1st and goal at the 1, and you don't score. It begs the question, should the Chiefs have taken the points? I understand you want to give Patrick Mahomes as many chances as possible to score. He's Patrick Mahomes, but in hindsight, that was a terrible decision. Think about it this way. If the Chiefs had kicked the field goal there, they win this game. The final score is 27-24 Chiefs. The story isn't the epic choke job by Mahomes. The story is that even when Mahomes plays bad, he still led the Chiefs on a really nice 6-minute drive at the end of the game to ultimately lead the Chiefs to victory. The Butker field goal at the end of regulation, instead of sending the game to overtime, would have won the Chiefs the game. It would have sent them to the Super Bowl. Now, why did the Chiefs choke? That's the question. The answer? They listened to me. They did a great job of disguising their defense. In the second half, Mahomes was forced to create a lot more. The first half was just surgical dissection. There's no other term for it. Mahomes could do no wrong. He was making perfect passes, was buying time, and was scoring touchdowns. Think about it. In the first half, the Bengals defense was always on their heels. They had 2 good defensive plays in the first half. It was the stop on 1st and goal at the 1, and the stop on 2nd and goal at the 1. In the second half, Lou Anarumo changed things. He disguised his defense. That's how you beat Patrick Mahomes. You confuse him. You make him think one thing, when in reality, the answer is something else. And most great quarterbacks are like that. Look, that's not solely a Mahomes thing. It's something that all great quarterbacks have to deal with. Some defenses, when they're facing a great quarterback, will just sit back and wait for that quarterback to make a mistake. Or they'll say, you know what, we're not going to let you throw the ball deep. We'll just let you kill us with a million cuts. That's not how you beat great quarterbacks. You beat great quarterbacks by forcing mistakes. How do you force mistakes? By showing one thing, then doing another. Whether it's pressure off the weak side when there's no pressure at all, blitzing guys that Mahomes doesn't see coming. Think about the fumble. At the end of regulation, Sam Hubbard is dropping back. Mahomes thinks he's solely in coverage. Then Hubbard blitzes and forces the fumble. Now you can say that's a bad job by Anarumo and not doing that in the first half, but better late than never. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jacob, you just said that the Bengals caused the Mahomes choke. Doesn't that make this a Bengals comeback rather than a Chiefs choke? I'm not saying that the Bengals were just the beneficiary of the Chiefs falling apart. I mean, the Bengals still had to score 18 points to make up that gap. And they had to score 6 more points to take the lead and eventually win. Give the Bengals credit. Give Joe Burrow credit. Give Joe Mixon credit. Give everyone credit on the Bengals offense. But this was more of a Chiefs choke. And I'm going to tell you why. The Chiefs had 7 drives in the second half and overtime. With the exception of the drive at the end of regulation, no drive lasted more than 5 plays. With the exception of the drive at the end of regulation, the Chiefs only had 2 first downs in the second half and overtime. I mean, think about it. The Bengals have first and goal at the 8. The Chiefs' defense steps up. And they force a field goal. It's an 8-point game at this point. But you still are in the driver's seat if you're the Chiefs. Like, if you score on the ensuing drive, okay. You're feeling really good about your chances. The next Patrick Mahomes pass gets picked off by B.J. Hill. 5 plays later, Burrow hits on the goal line fade to Jamar Chase. I hate goal line fades, but it worked. Then some schmagegi that no one's ever heard of catches the 2-point conversion. Trent Taylor didn't have a single catch in the playoffs before that 2-point conversion. He was the last person on earth that anyone thought would get that football. Give the Bengals a ton of credit for trusting him. In all fairness to Taylor, he is a veteran. He's been in the NFL since 2017. And he's short. He's 5'8", 180 pounds. He's smaller than me. Sometimes what happens in those goal line situations is you lose track of the smaller guys. No one picked up Trent Taylor. So all of a sudden, a game that you thought the Chiefs had in the bag, up 21-3 at one point, almost up 28-10 at the half, is now tied at 21 entering the fourth quarter. Then Joe Burrow worked his magic, led the Bengals on a big 12-play drive that resulted in Evan McPherson kicking a 52-yard field goal. Even though the Bengals had the lead and Mahomes was struggling, I don't think anyone felt 100% confident in the Bengals. Like, yeah, they had the lead, but at the same time, this is Patrick Mahomes. Alright, he's going to flip a switch, and the Chiefs are going to win this game. I don't think anyone was thinking overtime. I don't think anyone wanted overtime. Do we want another week of, is the NFL overtime rules fair? That shouldn't be the story. The story should be the play on the field, not a rule in a rule book. And look, it seemed like the Chiefs were gonna win this game. 1st and goal at the 5? There's no way Mahomes isn't scoring here. He's got 4 tries to punch the ball in. The Chiefs have this game won, but again, another choke job. Back-to-back sacks from 2nd and goal at the 4 to 4th and goal at the 26. This was a 22-yard field goal at one point. Even on 3rd and goal, if Mahomes had thrown an incomplete pass, it's a 27-yard field goal. That's a gimme. A 44-yard field goal is no sure thing, but give Butker credit. He sent the Chiefs to overtime. No thanks to Mahomes, but he did. And then the Chiefs won the coin toss. Because of course they did. Because of course the Chiefs would win another game where Joe Burrow, the best player on the opposing team, doesn't get a chance to touch the football. But the football gods said enough was enough. We are gonna give Burrow a chance to win this game. Mahomes threw his 2nd interception, this one to Von Bell. 9 plays later, Evan McPherson kicked the game-winning 31-yard field goal. I thought they'd kick the field goal on 1st and 10 at the 12. That's a 30-yard field goal. That's a gimme. That's shorter than an extra point. But at the end of the day, it worked. Oh my gosh, they had a 31-yard field goal instead of a 30-yard field goal. Evan McPherson has ice in his veins. This is why you invest in kickers. This is why you spend a 5th-round pick on a kicker who you feel strongly about. If you like this kid and say, you know what, I think he can be the next Jim Breach. Boy, there's a name out of the past. Jim Breach, Bengals kicker in the 80s. You take him. If you have a great kicker, pay to keep him. How many games have we seen won and lost by kickers? There are 3 phases to every game. Offense, defense, special teams. Too often, people take that 3rd phase for granted. Give the Bengals credit for realizing the importance of special teams. Evan McPherson now has the most postseason field goals by a rookie kicker in NFL history. On that same token, Jamar Chase now has the most receiving yards by a rookie in a single postseason in NFL history. Joe Burrow is now the first overall pick to start a Super Bowl at quarterback within his first 2 seasons. Do you remember early in the postseason, I was talking about what the Bengals would need to do to beat the Raiders? Basically, I said they need to take it easy. They'd carry the whole burden of the Bengals franchise on their shoulders, whether they like it or not. But that didn't concern me with Burrow. Why didn't that concern me? Because Joe Burrow at LSU led the Tigers to an undefeated season. He had one of the greatest seasons in college football history. I mean, think about it. In his senior year, he went into Texas and beat the Longhorns. He went into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. Georgia LSU in the SEC title game, a supposedly neutral site. The game was in Atlanta. Burrow destroyed Georgia. Even in environments like the Peach Bowl and the college football national title game, Burrow dominated. This kid is unfazed by the bright lights. The Bengals have a ton of young players who are just unfazed when the lights are on bright. I cannot tell you how much of a luxury that is. You know the saying, you need to learn how to win? These kids, Burrow, Chase, and McPherson, came into the NFL knowing how to win. That is why the Bengals were able to go worst to first in 2 years. That is why the AFC North is going to be a dogfight for years to come between the Bengals and the Ravens. The Browns may be in the mix, but I think the Bengals and Ravens are better. The Steelers, depending on what they do at quarterback, may be in the mix, but let's see what they do at quarterback first. Give those kids a ton of credit, but this is more on Mahomes. This is more on a quarterback that we have seen lead his team to comeback victories time and time again, just fail. Forget about failing to come back. You know, no one would have begrudged Burrow for failing to lead the Bengals back from 18 down. Okay, that's a big mountain to climb. It's very tough to win a game like that. No one would have begrudged him. But all Patrick Mahomes had to do was keep the freaking lead. It is infinitely easier to play with a lead than to play from behind. All you have to do is not make mistakes. What did Patrick Mahomes do? Make mistake after mistake after mistake. In the second half and overtime, he threw 2 interceptions that directly resulted in Bengals points. He only threw for 55 yards. He nearly fumbled the game away. You know, the backyard football mentality that Mahomes has is great. It's part of what makes him special. His ability to scramble and make stuff happen is part of why he's the best player in the NFL. It's why he's a Super Bowl MVP at the tender age of 26. It's why he beat the Bills. His ability to do things that make you say, oh my God, we're living in a video game. But sometimes that mindset can get you in trouble. When you think to yourself, I can do this all by myself, I can make stuff happen, and I want to be the magic man, and I want to be the seminal reason that we win, it's going to be me, that's when you get into trouble. And that's what happened to Mahomes. I have never seen worse decision making from Patrick Mahomes than in that game. I have never seen a worse game from Mahomes than that game. There are certain moments that will always be part of a player's legacy. Mariano Rivera, the greatest reliever in baseball history, will always have Game 7 of the 0-1 World Series and Game 4 of the 0-4 ALCS as a cross to bear. Garrett Cole, if he wins 5 World Series with the Yankees, will always have that dismal performance in the wild card game as a cross to bear. This is Patrick Mahomes' cross to bear. No one could begrudge him for losing the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers. Alright, Mahomes had no O-line. He was incredibly short-handed. He had to do everything by himself. The defense didn't help him. It was a joke. No one can begrudge Mahomes for that. But to blow an 18-point lead at home with a Super Bowl berth on the line ranks up there as one of the biggest chokes in NFL history. It's right up there with the 92 wildcard round between the Oilers and Bills. Oilers are up 35-3. The Bills come back and win in overtime. It's right up there with 28-3. The Falcons can't close out the Patriots. 21-3 is right up there. Maybe it's not as bad as those two. Okay, fair enough. But it's certainly in the conversation. It will always be a part of Patrick Mahomes' legacy. The reality is the Chiefs should be in the Super Bowl right now. This should be a Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl. If you're a Chiefs fan, you have every right to be upset right now. I understand you went to back-to-back Super Bowls, but it's okay to want a three-peat. This could spark major changes within the Chiefs. Does Steve Spagnuolo survive this? Do the Chiefs say, enough is enough, we're going to move on from Andy Reid? We're going to bump him upstairs, we'll let Eric Bieniemy take over, we'll let Mike Kafka be the offensive coordinator, and we'll make major changes to the roster. When you have a loss like that, everything's on the table. The Chiefs really should be in the Super Bowl right now, but because Patrick Mahomes choked, they're not. If that doesn't spark major changes, I don't know what will. Moving on now to Niners-Rams, a game that wasn't as good as Bengals-Chiefs, but was still very good. And it did feature another nice comeback. The Niners were up 17-7 after 3 quarters. Then the Rams came storming back and scored 13 unanswered points in the 4th quarter to end up going to the Super Bowl. Let me tell you, if you had a Bengals-Rams Super Bowl before the season started, play Lotto tonight. Now, I want to be fair here. All right, Jimmy Garoppolo is getting a lot of heat. And if you've listened to this show in the past, you know I'm not the biggest Garoppolo fan. All right, I don't think he's a great quarterback. But I don't think he's bad either. Like, should the Niners move on from him for Trey Lance? Yeah, probably. It's kind of hard to have the 3rd overall pick sit on the bench for 2 years. But I don't think Garoppolo is as bad as people are making him out to be. That's how I want to break this game down. I want to break this game down through the lens of Jimmy Garoppolo. And again, I want to say this. I do not think Jimmy Garoppolo is a great quarterback. I don't think you will ever win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback. But that doesn't mean he's bad. Okay, can we all agree that there's a role for Garoppolo in the NFL? Can we all agree that he's better than some starting quarterbacks right now? At the end of the day, he gives you a chance to win every single game. He's not great. Jimmy Garoppolo is not a great quarterback. But he's not terrible. Realistically, what that game exposed is the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo cannot be the best player on the field if his team is going to win. See, the thing is, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a franchise quarterback, but that's okay. Maybe it's not okay for the Niners based on where they are, but I could see Garoppolo on a team like the Giants. He'd make the Giants infinitely better. He'd make the Texans better. He'd make the Broncos better. I think he'd make Washington better. He'd make the Panthers a lot better. That's the thing. He's not a franchise quarterback. If you're looking to win a Super Bowl, which is where the Niners are right now, 2 out of 3 years in the NFC title game, but you just fail to win that last game of the season, you've got to move on from Garoppolo. But if you're looking to get to that point, bring in Garoppolo. The fact that the Niners have gotten to 2 of the last 3 NFC title games is impressive. Is he made of glass? Yeah. Only 2 seasons has Garoppolo started at least 15 games. He's been in the NFL for 8 seasons. 5 with the Niners. Even if I'm taking his first year out of the equation because the Niners traded for him mid-season, that means that half of his Niners career he's been hurt more than he hasn't been. Part of being great is staying healthy. Jimmy Garoppolo is not great, but Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. Not great. Troy Aikman was 100% right in saying that you don't want this game to be on Garoppolo's right arm. He cannot be the seminal reason that you win. You don't want him being put in a position to lead a game-winning drive. I understand that. But can we just agree that he's not bad? Can we agree that he's a Teddy Bridgewater type? Maybe 1 step above game manager? Can we agree with that? That's the thing. I think Garoppolo's getting too much heat. I don't think he was the seminal reason that the Niners lost. I think the seminal reason that the Rams are going to the Super Bowl is because the Rams are the better team. You know, the Rams' run defense was excellent. The Niners are a ground and pound team, and they really limited what Elijah Mitchell could do. They really limited what Deebo Samuel could do. Cooper Kupp was insane because, of course, he was. Even with that one bad drop, he had 11 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. Odell Beckham, 9 catches for 113 yards. Kendall Blanton comes in when Tyler Higbee gets hurt and has 5 catches for 57 yards. And I was impressed with his blocking also. Sometimes in sports, you just gotta tip your cap to one team and say, you know what, this team is just better. The Rams are better than the Niners. I picked the Rams in this game. Did the Niners have every opportunity to win? The answer is yes. Did Garoppolo fold in the fourth quarter? The answer is yes, but at the same time, he really wasn't helped out a lot. Like, that fourth quarter was a masterclass on how not to win a football game. My goodness, does Kyle Shanahan do that a lot. You know, Kyle Shanahan and Cliff Kingsbury are exactly the same. They're phase 1 guys. Maybe they'll get you into the playoffs, but if you want to win that last game of the season, you've got to do better. 2nd and 1 at the Rams 44. And you have Shanahan acting like a complete idiot. Calls a run up the middle that loses a yard. Calls another run up the middle that goes for no gain. Kyle Juszczyk nearly fumbled that ball away. Then on 4th and 2, and realize this is at the Rams' 45-yard line. You're going to have Garoppolo take a delay of game penalty? Look, I understand wanting to try to draw the Rams off sides. But you take a timeout to preserve the option for going for it. You don't take the delay of game there. Not for nothing, but Jimmy Garoppolo can complete a 3-yard pass. Alright, here's what you do on 4th and 2. You try the hard count. If it doesn't work, you call a timeout. After the timeout, Deebo Samuel runs a quick out route, and you get the ball to him for the first down. You want to have Brandon Ayuk do that? That's fine. You want to have George Kittle do that? That's fine. But Jimmy Garoppolo can throw a 3-yard pass. To take the delay of game and then punt the ball away was incredibly stupid. But Garoppolo's defense didn't help him out either. The first play after the punt landed in Jaquiski Tartt's hands. Stafford's going deep. He's looking for either Odell Beckham or Van Jefferson. He misses both of them. Jaquiski Tartt is in perfect position to catch this football, and he drops it. What happens after that? The Rams march down the field and end up tying the game. If Tartt had pulled off that interception, maybe, just maybe, the Niners score on the ensuing drive and they win this game. Instead, the Rams kick a field goal that ties the game. Kyle Shanahan gets completely away from the run. The last 6 plays that the Niners ran were all passes. The Niners are a ground and pound team. I understand that their run defense was excellent. I understand that guys like Aaron Donald and Troy Reeder and A'Shawn Robinson were clogging up the running lanes and weren't letting guys like Samuel and Mitchell get going. But if you're an offensive guru, you've got to find a way to get the running game going. Alright? Yes, the Rams defense was great, but you've got to counteract that. Okay? That was a terrible job by Shanahan. And in all fairness to Garoppolo, the pick that he threw really wasn't his fault. Alright, go back and watch the play. The Niners O-line absolutely collapsed. Garoppolo is somehow able to get the throw off. It hits JaMycal Hasty in the hands, but Hasty just popped it into the air for Trevin Howard to catch. So you've got all these things going up against Garoppolo. A coach that doesn't know how to win a football game. Think about the fourth quarters of Kyle Shanahan's last 3 playoff losses. He was the offensive coordinator during Super Bowl 51 when the Patriots pulled off the epic comeback. Yes, it was a great comeback by Brady, but at the same time, if the Falcons score just one more point, they win the Super Bowl. Bad job by Shanahan. How about the Super Bowl 3 years later? Patrick Mahomes pulls off the epic comeback. Okay, all well and good, but at the same time, the Niners got shut out. And yesterday, Shanahan put on a masterclass on how to blow a football game in the fourth quarter. So you have the overrated head coach. All he is a stage 1 guy. You have the killer drop by Jaquiski Tartt. You have inept clock management that, again, falls on Shanahan. You have the O-line collapsing on the last play of the game. You have Hasty popping the ball up in the air for Howard to catch. All these things are going up against Jimmy Garoppolo. How is he supposed to win? You want to tell me a great quarterback should be able to overcome that? Yes, but I have never once said that Jimmy Garoppolo is great. All I've said is he's not bad. Does he do everything that you want a quarterback to do? No, he's not a franchise quarterback. That's the thing. We have this myth that in order to be a good quarterback, you need to be a franchise quarterback. Look, everyone wants a franchise quarterback, but there are only so many of those guys. Put Garoppolo on any of those teams that I mentioned, and he makes them better. Put him on the Texans. They're better. Put him on the Steelers right now. I'm sure they'd sign up for that in a minute. Put him in Washington. They're better. Put him on the Panthers. They're better. Put him on the Giants, and they're better. There's a place for Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFL. Not great. Not a great quarterback. Alright, was by far and away the worst quarterback of the 4 that played yesterday. Not even close. But not bad either. If I need a bridge quarterback, I'll take Garoppolo for a couple years. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jacob, some of those teams that you mentioned have young quarterbacks. Why would they move on from their young guns for a guy like Garoppolo? Here's why. What the LA Rams have proven is that if you can get an upgrade at quarterback, you do it regardless of the cost. Think about the Matt Stafford trade. Stafford gets traded for 2 firsts, a third, and Jared Goff. That is a king's ransom to give up. And you cannot tell me that Stafford is a huge upgrade over Goff. Is he an upgrade? The answer is yes. But it's not the difference between a guy like Aaron Rodgers and Sam Darnold. But it is an upgrade. Was the upgrade worth it? Hard to say right now, but I'll say this. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, the answer is yes. If you can get an upgrade at quarterback, you need to pursue it at all costs. I am not saying that teams with rookie quarterbacks that struggled should move on from those guys and pursue veterans. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if you have a quarterback that's been around for a while, a guy like Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold, and it's clear that they're not getting the job done, you need to pursue an upgrade. It's clear as day that teams like the Giants, Panthers, and Broncos don't have the guy. A bridge quarterback like Bridgewater, no pun intended, can work in some instances. Like the Broncos were better this year than they were last year. In fact, I'd say they were better last year than they were any year since 2016 when they went 9-7. Trevor Siemian's first year at the helm. But you know for a fact that Bridgewater isn't going to win you a Super Bowl. So should you pursue an upgrade? The answer is yes. Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold have been in the NFL for a while now. Next year will be Jones' 4th year. Next year will be Darnold's 5th year. They're not going to get any better. So teams like the Giants and Panthers need to pursue an upgrade at all costs. This is why teams reach for quarterbacks. If there is a quarterback that you fall in love with, you're going to take him. It doesn't matter if in a perfect world you could get him a few picks later, or maybe even a round later. If you have a quarterback that you love, you'll reach for him. And make no mistake about it. Alright, I like Jared Goff. I do think he's a good quarterback. Not great, but I think he's good. I think the Lions are fine with him. He's not the reason that they went 3-13-1. Let's put it that way. They just have no talent around him. But Goff couldn't do what Stafford has done. Goff doesn't lead the Rams on that epic drive late in the game against the Buccaneers. Alright, Matthew Stafford is better than Jared Goff. The thing is, though, if the Rams lose the Super Bowl, that trade isn't worth it. Jared Goff has proven that he can get you to the Super Bowl. So in essence, all you did was mortgage the future for the same result. The Rams need to win the Super Bowl here. But for teams like the Giants or the Panthers or the Broncos or the Texans, any team that wants to upgrade a quarterback, you can throw the Saints in there also. You can throw the Buccaneers in there. You can throw the Steelers in there. There are a ton of teams that need new quarterbacks. They've got to be really aggressive. Go out there and see what it would take for the Seahawks to trade Russell Wilson. See what it would take for the Packers to trade Aaron Rodgers. If you can upgrade a quarterback, you've got to do it. That's the lesson here. If you want to get better, noticeably better, and be in the mix for a playoff spot, and give your fans something to be happy about, you've got to be aggressive at the quarterback position. It's just that simple. I brought up the Buccaneers a little earlier. They are in the market for a new quarterback because, according to Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington of ESPN, Tom Brady will retire. Now, nothing is official yet, but if a guy like Darlington and especially Schefter report something, odds are it's true. I'll say this, even though some people poured cold water on the report, Ian Rappaport of NFL.com said that Brady is expected to retire. The issue is just timing related. See, Brady's trying to control the narrative. He wants to announce the decision himself, rather than have it come from a guy like Schefter or Darlington or Rappaport, an NFL insider, which is fair. Tom Brady has earned the right to announce his own retirement. And I am absolutely stunned that Tom Brady wants to retire now. I mean, Brady said earlier that his family would play a big role in his decision on whether to retire or not. So even though Brady had an excellent season, an MVP caliber season, and even though the Buccaneers made the playoffs and lost in heartbreaking fashion despite an epic Brady comeback, if Brady's thinking about retiring for a non-football reason, a football reason isn't going to sway him. Look, Tom Brady loves football. We know this. That's why he's played until the age of 44. I mean, Brady had many earlier opportunities to retire, but he kept on going. Why? Because he loves the sport. But he also loves being a father. You listen to the interview that he did with Howard Stern after he left the Patriots, you could tell how important his family is to him. You listen to his podcast with Jim Gray after you're done listening to this, you know how important family is to him. At the end of the day, when you have Gisele Bündchen waiting at home for you, and you have 3 kids, a 14-year-old that he had with Bridget Moynihan, and a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old that he had with Gisele, there aren't too many big moments left to share with them. I mean, being a quarterback is a full-time job. There are no off days, even in the off season. You've got to keep up your training regimen. You got to make sure that you don't let yourself go. Even if it's during the season and it's like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, you're still studying film. You're still making sure that you put your team in as good a position as possible to win on Sundays. It's hard. Think about it. When your oldest kid is 14 and your youngest is 9, there aren't too many big moments left to share with them. You've got high school, you've got prom, you've got a Sweet 16, you've got college, but that's about it. Like I said, Brady loves being a father. And I think he's earned the right to step away and say, you know what? I want to spend more time with my family. Like, Brady doesn't strike me as the kind of person that's gonna get into coaching or get into broadcasting. Maybe he'll do some, like, weekly spots on some radio shows. But I see him getting more involved with the TB12 company that he has. I mean, maybe he'll get involved with, like, some players if they come to him and say, hey, I want to get in shape. Can you help me out? I could see Brady saying, yeah, sure, let me tell you about the benefits of following the TB12 method. See, that's the thing that people are missing. This isn't a football-related decision. This is a family-related decision. And it's very tough to give your family the attention that they need when you have no off days. I mean, think about it like this. Kyrie Irving isn't getting the COVID vaccine because of a non-basketball reason. So to expect him to get the vaccine just because Kevin Durant is hurt is kind of stupid, right? And he said that. I don't begrudge people for asking, but if you stop and think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Same thing here. This isn't a football-related decision. This is a family-related decision. And you've got to applaud Brady for putting his family first. He could have very easily come back and said, I don't want my career to end that way. Let me give it one more go. It's interesting to speculate, would Brady have retired if he had won the Super Bowl? Would he have retired after winning back-to-back Super Bowls with the Buccaneers? We'll never know for sure. But all in all, congrats to Brady. First ballot Hall of Famer. He's the GOAT. Alright, he's not just the greatest quarterback ever. He's the greatest player in NFL history. Alright, and to say anyone else, Joe Montana, Emmitt Smith, Jerry Rice, Lawrence Taylor, whoever, is just wrong. Okay, it's not up for debate anymore. Tom Brady is the GOAT. But it will be interesting to see what the Buccaneers do now. Jason Light is a wizard at keeping his rosters together. I mean, he ran back a Super Bowl winner, something that's never been done in the free agency era. So it wouldn't surprise me if he went after a quarterback like, say, Garoppolo or Bridgewater, or maybe even a big fish, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, and gave it one more go. I don't see him blowing things up. Not with Bruce Arians as head coach. That's not going to happen. I think the Buccaneers will try to run it back. And they may even remain a Super Bowl contender. How crazy would that be? You lose Tom Brady to retirement, and you remain a Super Bowl contender. Unreal. Moving on now to the Giants hiring Brian Daboll to be their head coach. That hire was announced on Friday night. And this is a great move for the Giants. I said that this is what would happen after the Giants hired Joe Shane away from the Bills. Of course he's going to want to bring in someone who he knows. Who does he know better than Brian Daboll? Very few people. I'll say this. I know that I said before that it was a good job by GMs like Ryan Poles and George Payton to go outside their comfort zone and hire people that they don't know. The thing is, though, when you know a deserving candidate, and Brian Daboll was a deserving candidate. He had been a deserving candidate for a while. It's kind of hard to not hire that guy. The only time that nepotism becomes an issue is when someone gets the job that probably doesn't deserve it. Brian Daboll deserves this job. And I'm going to say something that kills me to say, but I've got to be fair. The Giants have the right hierarchy in place. It's been a while since you've been able to say that the Giants have the right hierarchy in place. Like, realistically, you haven't been able to say that since the Giants' last Super Bowl. Ever since then, Jerry Reese was criticized, Tom Coughlin got heat, Lord knows Ben McAdoo got heat, Lord knows Dave Gettleman got heat, Lord knows Pat Shurmur got heat, Lord knows Joe Judge got heat. These guys, Shane and Daboll, come off smelling like a rose. And there's a reason for that. They come from a very successful Bills organization. Shane certainly paid his dues, and so did Daboll. These are two well-qualified people who I think will point the Giants in the right direction. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the roster. They better move on from Daniel Jones, I'll say that. Jones hasn't shown you anything in his 3 years that make you think he's going to be anything special in the NFL. And again, when it's clear that your quarterback isn't the guy, you've got to move on from him. You've got to pursue an upgrade. And like I said, you've got to be aggressive in pursuing that upgrade. And realistically, it's up to Shane to figure out how it's going to work with the cap. But I'll say this, the Giants are keeping around some very smart people that'll certainly help Shane and Dable out. Shane is keeping Kevin Abrams, who has been with the Giants since '99, was interim GM when they fired Jerry Reese, interviewed for the job before Shane got it. At one point, it looked like it was going to be Abrams and Judge. Now it's Shane and Dable. Which one would you rather have? The answer is Shane and Dable. But Abrams is a smart guy, knows the organization inside and out. I don't mind Shane keeping him. And I don't mind Dable keeping Patrick Graham. Graham is a very well-respected defensive coordinator. He was getting head coaching interviews this cycle. I think he'll continue to get head coaching interviews. The Giants' defense wasn't great last year, but Dable and Graham know each other from their days with the Patriots. That familiarity helps. So I really like the direction that the Giants are heading in right now. But if these guys roll with Jones, the honeymoon will be over very quickly. Please, please, please. I'm not saying this as a Jets fan. I'm saying this as an NFL fan. Please, please, please move on from Daniel Jones. He is not the answer. And if you can't see that, I can't help you. I'll close this show out by talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. I want to keep this show solely dedicated to the NFL. I know there's other stuff that happened. I'll get to it tomorrow. It won't be passé, I promise. But I've got to get into the Raiders putting their new hierarchy in place. Dave Ziegler, the Patriots director of player personnel, and Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive coordinator, are leaving Foxborough for Las Vegas. Ziegler is the Raiders' new GM, and McDaniels is the Raiders' new head coach. And you remember when I said that a halfway approach wouldn't work for the Raiders? I'd want them to either keep Rich Bisaccia and the bulk of this roster or blow everything up. This is a halfway approach. Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are not leaving the Patriots so they can oversee a rebuild. Maybe Ziegler would, but there's no way that Josh McDaniels would. There's no way that McDaniels would leave the Patriots to oversee a rebuild. The Raiders are gonna try to run it back. Will there be changes to the roster? Some, but not a ton. Look, the Raiders made the playoffs this year. They don't need to go crazy in changing things. I mean, the biggest thing is quarterback. According to Mike Garoppolo of the NFL Network, there's mutual admiration between McDaniels and Derek Carr. So Carr is staying, Renfro is staying, Waller is staying, Yannick Ngakoue is staying, Max Crosby is staying. Like I said, the Raiders aren't going to blow things up too much. But is that the right approach? Is bringing in this new hierarchy to a situation like the Raiders with Gruden guys, with the stench of guys like Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett, and Gruden too, still lingering in the air, is that the right thing to do? The answer is no. It's not. Look, I understand what Mark Davis is thinking. Who better to clean up this garbage than two people from the Patriots organization? Who better to clean this up than people who know the Bill Belichick system inside and out? You don't see this stuff happening in Foxborough. They've only had one idiot. That's it. The Raiders have had a ton. Look, I get that logic. I do. There is logic to that. But here's the thing. Every time people come in from the Patriots and say they are going to build up this team from a Patriots mindset, we are going to turn this into Patriots West. We've heard that sentiment a bunch of times. It never works. Eric Mangini said similar things when he was with the Jets. He didn't work out. The Lions went with two Belichick guys. Bob Quinn is the GM, Matt Patricia is the head coach. That failed miserably. Brian Flores rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in Miami. That's why he's out of a job right now. Joe Judge failed miserably with the Giants. When you try to incorporate the Belichick system, and you're not Bill Belichick, it doesn't work. Now, I'm not saying that all the Belichick disciples are destined to fail. Brian Dable's a Belichick disciple. I think he's going to work out. Josh McDaniels, I actually thought would do a good job if he ended up with a team like the Colts or any other team that he was linked to. But I see the writing on the wall. I know that Josh McDaniels is going to do things the Patriots way. And make no mistake about it, Josh McDaniels is running that team right now. It's not Dave Ziegler. Alright, it was rumored for a while that McDaniels and Ziegler were like a package deal. I mean, McDaniels didn't even want to interview with the Raiders unless he knew he was going to get that job. He has the power, not Dave Ziegler. He's going to run things the Patriots way, the Belichick system. It's not going to work. Why? Because he's not Bill Belichick. If McDaniels had ended up with, let's say, the Giants, or the Bears, or the Jets last year, would McDaniels have not worked? Let's put it this way. I wouldn't be pessimistic. We'll never know for sure, but I wouldn't be slamming my fist on the table saying this isn't going to work. It's okay to take some of the things that you'll learn from Belichick with you. Of course. You'd be an idiot not to, but if you think you're gonna do what Belichick can do, despite not earning that right yourself, you're gonna fail miserably. I don't see this working for the Raiders. I understand Mark Davis wanting to keep this roster together, and wanting to bring in people who can clean things up, but that just wasn't possible. Given everything that happened to the Raiders this year, it was impossible to go with a halfway approach like that. If you wanted to do something like that, promote Rich Bisaccia to full-time head coach. He earned it. Seeing how he rallied the Raiders around him, and seeing how he led them to the playoffs, and he nearly beat the Bengals. He really almost did. You could have kept him around. That would have worked. You didn't need to blow things up. But I think this halfway approach is just destined to fail. New York Islanders show comes your way tonight. Let me tell you, I'm going to go on a rant. But it's not going to be for the reason you think. You're definitely going to want to listen to this show, even if you're not an Islanders fan. I promise you, you're going to like it. Regular episodes of The Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.